check. Testing. Wow, what happened there? Hopefully there was some music playing in the intro. So welcome to the live stream. Let me just fix some things right here so we can put chat on the air and just get a chance to say hello to everyone. Let me minimize this and did I close it all together? I hope not. Let's do this instead. So welcome to the live stream. If I seem out of sorts, I am out of sorts tonight, but it'll be fine. Lots of things happening here around the studio. I've made some changes. It looks kind of overexposed right now over my shoulder. Not sure what's happening back there, but let me know if that just looks funky. Let me look on the big screen here. No, it's fine. Just got the exposure a little bright back there, but let's go back to this. So let me just say hi to those of you that are in the chat. So let me turn chat on the air here. In case you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, say hi in the chat. And if you haven't subscribed, you won't be able to chat. I have subscribers only chat on the air. All you have to do is subscribe, and then a minute later you can chat with us. We have a great couple of topics tonight to talk about. We're going to talk about the new podcast feature on YouTube, what that means. I have a little podcast set I have back here, and I'm going to try to get up and go to that set here tonight. Let me know if the audio and everything is really good, so that everything's working. AV okay, intro music okay, sound back. Cool. Okay. So let me do this. Let me just get some highs going here. Hi, Freddie. It's good to have you here. Freddie reached out to me today and asked me if I was live streaming because I didn't get my still image up on the channel until late today. I usually will give you guys notice if I'm not going to be live. It's good to have you here, Hank, tonight, as always. And also we have Jay here. Podcast tab. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. And we are going to also talk about what HyperDeck's good for you. And I'm actually going to kind of cross a line that I rarely cross here tonight with the HyperDeck. It's not going to be anything controversial, but I am going to talk about a couple of products tonight when we talk about that. So make sure you stay tuned for that. So again, hi, Jay. Got a chance to be on his live stream last night. Totally over my head, but it was cool to be there. I was also there with DJ Ware, so it's good to see you. Those two guys have channels, so check those out. And lots of cool tech, IT, tunneling, backup systems, you name it. I don't even really do very well around the language of that kind of culture. And isn't it interesting that each of these different kind of conversations that we have, like for instance, live streaming has kind of its own language and concepts and things like that. When you get into the IT world and you get into like security, online security and all that stuff and backup systems, computers, all the different operating systems, that's a whole nother language. And there's so many languages. So it's not just like some of you are from other countries, like Freddie's from down in Venezuela. He does speak English. That's not his primary language. I'll let you shout out, Freddie, what your primary language is. But, you know, we have language barriers because we speak a different language, but we also have language barriers because different types of technology have different languages. Like, what in the world is a HyperDeck? So if this is your first time tuning in, you've watched this live or watch it delayed on my channel. I am Keith. This is Life Journey Production Studios. I want to welcome everybody. Not quite sure what happened to the TV tonight, but we'll get this fired up and get our background back up there. And that's a good background. So again, wanted to say hi to everybody. Drop it in the chat. So got DJ Ware again. Good to see you. Let's go down here. I saw some more people in the chat. Hank from Stop and Think. I believe I have that right. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to plead old age. It's good to have you here. AKO Polka, I think. I'm probably brutalizing that again. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking that. And yeah, we had Skycam on tonight. Let's flip that puppy back on. All I have to do is turn chat off the air and turn Skycam on the air, and there's Skycam. It's set up like this because of the location in the still image. So let's just drop this down on my down here. But there's Skycam, and I can go around the room as Freddie talked about. So there is the little podcast stage for tonight's conversation. There's a new, all my Batman stuff's been moved to the shelf. There's a desk view. You can program, there's a wide shot of the corner shelf and the podcasting desk. There's another view of the desk so you can see me using my Wacom One tablet. And then there is another view. You can see the BenQ monitor. And I talk about this all the time. So I just wanted to open with this, and then we'll get back into the chat because I've been cooped up in the house by myself for a couple days. So I'm definitely looking forward to some chat time. So hopefully, let's just pull this over here and get it above my logo. So that's the BenQ monitor. I'm using OBS. So basically, I have OBS coming into from my PC into an input on my ATEM, and I can just turn that on and off using a key. I'm using key number 4 in my ATEM Extreme. But the BenQ monitor has 4 inputs. So this is my HyperDeck. This is my multi-view. This is my PC. So I'm bringing OBS in right here. And obviously, if I pull this down and out, now you can see the stream. So I could catch up with the chat right here, but it's popped out. So the chat's popped out onto my Wacom One tablet. So let's bring this back full screen. Then over here, I have the software right here. And that's for my main ATEM Extreme ISO. And then if I bring it up, I also have my other Extreme ISO. So I can have the control software side by side. And obviously this is PC laptop, PC desktop. So I can then share other things here because this is duplicated. So it's also my laptop, and I can bring that into the stream. So if I wanted that same thing brought into the stream, then I could simply drag it over to my laptop, which I'm going to do right now, and you'll be able to see it. Let's drag it over to my laptop. It's over the chat right now. And then I will bring my laptop on the air. And there you go. The laptop's on the air, but you can still see me because I have the key number 4 on the air. And you guys can see that. Here's key number 4. So if I turn it off, I go away. If I turn it back on, I come back. And then obviously you can see over here, if I have OBS full screen again, then I can actually size this window and make it larger, transition. I can make it smaller and transition. And the idea would be to put that right over top of my logo and get it out of the way. So I can also change back to the main camera. So again, that's the Skycam. It is a Insta360 link and great camera. You can actually sign up now and sell the product. I got an alert this week. I'm not going to do that, but you could if you so desired. And I have macros on Mix Effects. Let's change views here. I think, no, we'll find it. It's here somewhere. So I have Mix Effects right here, kind of off camera, and I have macros so I can do chat off the air by tapping that, chat back on the air. And in reality right now, that's not chat. That actually is my Skycam, which is also coming through OBS. So let's turn Skycam off and chat back on the air. And there's Freddie's Skycam comment. And I can actually move the chat too over a little bit. So let me, let's see, unlock the chat. And I'll relock my Skycam for right now. Let's see, unlock chat. So I could move Freddie's chat over a little bit. So again, I have total control why I'm live because I'm using OBS, which is a great tool. And I'm only showing that because a lot of times seeing some of the behind the scenes before we dive into tonight's two topics is fun. So we're going to do that. So if you have any questions before we get started, we're going to go and talk about this new podcast feature available in YouTube first. Then we're going to end the night talking about what HyperDeck is right for you. Literally, there's lots of HyperDecks. I have some that I can pop on the screen in a slideshow. We'll talk about what is different about the HyperDecks that are all pretty affordable. We're going to talk about some of the more expensive HyperDecks that you're going to see in big production situations, so you can see that. But HyperDecks typically defined are they're a recording and playback device, and HyperDecks can either just play back video or they can play back graphics. So you could play back a animated graphic with any HyperDeck, but you're not going to necessarily be able to get it looking really, really crisp. Even this graphic right here isn't as crisp as I'd like it to be because it's only a fill graphic, and then I have to use the settings inside the ATEM Mini control software, and I have to try to adjust the gain and the clip to try to get it looking right, and they just never really look right. Where if I was doing this and using new features in OBS coming through a capture card, like a DeckLink card or a DeckLink Duo card, then I would be able to do those graphics and use them and also create a fill and key channel, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So let's get back in the chat, and Force Online is here. It is really good to see you, Doug, as always. Great to have you. Good to have you, David, again, all the way from Australia. I was watching a documentary on Disney, David. It's really good. It's about Chris Hemsworth. He plays Thor. He goes through like these 6 different challenges physically, and just very fascinating. And a lot of it was shot in Australia. And so I thought of you. Jonah, it's good to have you. Jonah and I are working together. He is a staff person at a church up in Snohomish, and doing an incredible job. Jonah, very, very, very proud of you. Doing social media, working with the staff there to get the message of what they're doing out, communicating through social media. And then I work on still images every week for their YouTube channel and their Facebook channel, and that's fun for me. The pastor he's working with is a friend of mine, and we've known each other for, I think, almost 40 some odd years. And so a shout out to Rod up there as well. Okay, so let me just see if I'm missing any questions here. Let me go back. Lots of highs, lots of lows. Let's see. Yeah, let's say that. So Freddie's primary language is Spanish, and I've actually had originally I did a free consult Zoom call with Freddie. He's on the channel all the time. Now we're friends. And so we try to get in contact with each other, sometimes every other day, an email and back and forth, and then try to have a Zoom once a quarter just to hang out on Zoom. And again, remember, in just about a month and a half, we're going to do a together Zoom, not live. It's not going to be broadcast anywhere, but we're going to do a Zoom as a post show so you can hang out. We're not going to do a long show that night. Then we'll have anybody that wants to can join me. So how do you do that? You would go to my website. Let me bring up my website here. I think I can find it. I've been there a few times. And then over on my contact page, there we go. So let me change to me and my laptop here, my laptop and me. And so this is my webpage. I'll put the link in the chat tonight. Let's see, can I remember how to do that? Because I popped out chat. I'll drop it right here. So that's the link. So if you would like to join me and have a free consult, as long as it has to do with technology and things I know about, then you can fill out that form and then communicate with me, and we'll do a free consult. I do have clients as well, so a lot of my clients come from those one-on-one consults. Most of my clients that I'm doing that are outside of the local area, within probably 50, 60 miles, most of those are people that I do consulting with, and I use Zoom, and I'm right here in the studio when I do that. I've had a few really local clients that have met with me face-to-face, both here in the studio and off campus. And then I actually do some video production occasionally when people find me and ask me to do that. I just got back from the Dallas, Oregon Forest River RV manufacturing plant. And so we will be talking more about that in the future. I'm waiting for them to release the video before I release some of the video that we took there. So obviously good to see you, and glad that Freddie and I can speak English, because I don't know very little Spanish. So, okay. So I am Toto from Kiel in Germany. Wish all a nice stream with Keith. Thank you. It's great to have you. You have to tell us maybe the story behind your picture. And because I love your picture. I always know it's you because it's so unique. So that's really cool. I don't know if that's you masked or it's just a graphic. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm working towards that, Jay. So I know that I should put my Skycam on its own device so I can just input it all the time. That's definitely going to happen in the Studio B when Shannon and I actually start building that. And so be patient with me, but I love the input because I agree. It'd be nice just to have a separate input. And in reality, you know, when you use your Stream Deck, it'd be nice to just have it in a Raspberry Pi. And I have a Raspberry Pi, even though I didn't load the Stream Deck version of Pi. I loaded the version for the HyperDeck Playout B version, and there's a new version of Playout B now. And that is an option we'll talk about a little bit later in the HyperDeck discussion. But right now we're going to just keep moving forward. Okay, it's just a mask. Well, thanks for letting us know. That's really cool. I do like that logo or that icon for you. Okay, cool. I think I caught up. So let's just vamp here for a minute. How am I doing? Well, in the United States, when we say, how's it going? It's really not a deep, serious question. One of my friends who is Dutch came over to the United States years ago when he was younger. He's got a very hard Dutch accent. And he told me that he came to the United States and someone asked him, how are you doing? And he started explaining to them all the things that's going on in his life. And the guy looks at him and goes, I wasn't really wanting to know the answer to that. But because you're out of the country, I'm going to assume that you're asking a question. So I'll just give you guys an update. My wife and my mother-in-law are out of town. And I've been home for a few days just to get some stuff done around here. Released a video today, video 4 in the Stream Deck Plus series. And that's a cool one because it talks about the Wavelink plugin, which is a great tool. If you're bringing all your audio into your computer for streaming on Zoom or Microsoft Meetings, all of those tools that go through a PC or a Mac, you can use the Stream Deck Plus with Wavelink software. You can also use VST plugins. If you don't know what a VST plugin is, back in the music days, people designed plugins very similar to the plugins we use now. Aaron Parecki's chat is kind of a Chrome plugin. And these plugins you can actually have in your computer as software like Wavemakes plugins. And then you can use those VST effects like reverb and chorus and all kinds of audio effects. You can then bring those into Wavelink as well. Though I don't talk a lot about that. The video is mainly about how the Stream Deck Plus unlocks Wavelink. So go check that out because that video is out. So that's 4 videos in the series plus the unboxing. Plus I did a live where we talked about plugins for the Stream Deck Plus and the XL. And Sideshow Effects makes some really cool plugins. And I've got some right here opened up right now on my Stream Deck Plus. And I use it all the time when I'm editing now. Mainly, my favorite feature is adding transitions, audio transitions when I'm editing. So if I make a cut, I'll use the Stream Deck Plus to click over into the audio page and over a couple pages, and then I'll drop that in. So we've been talking about Studio B because I may have to use this for family, this room. So we're kind of heading that direction. We've had some circumstances in our family with health that we may need to have a closer supervision of my mother-in-law. And so we're kind of waiting that out, but we're probably going to get some insulation done in the attic of the garage. That would be step one. I have a friend that's going to draw some plans. So I will share those plans with you when he and I get a chance to meet. That should be later this week or next week or possibly this weekend. So again, thank you for asking me how I'm doing. I have made some changes in here, and like I said, we had a very busy day last couple of weeks because I was here managing the house by myself, and it's amazing what my wife does. Okay, so let me do this. I want to just make sure I haven't missed anything in the chat. Said hi to everybody. It would really help me if you hit the like button. That does help get more people aware that I do lives every Tuesday. And so I would really appreciate that. Thank you, Freddie, earlier. He hit the like button way early this afternoon, so I appreciate that as well. I think Wavelink does supply some effects, right? Which just is built into Wavelink, but I think it's only available for the 3 microphones. At least that's what it looks like on their page. I'm going to do some more exploring. But when I was getting the video ready yesterday, I added a still image inside the video to talk about VST because I felt like it needed to be mentioned. So even though I shot that video a number of weeks back, I wanted to add that still image, and it's cut right from Elgato's page where it says that VST is supported by the Stream Deck Plus, and then the Wave mics. There's 2 Wave mics that are USB, and now they have a Wave XLR. And so I think the software, VST software that they have, is only downloadable through having one of those microphones, but I'm not sure. But I will say this, when I had my recording studio, I was downloading some free VSTs all the time. So, and again, really all they are is, we used to have to buy like rack mounted analog devices, which, I mean, analog is a way better solution for effects, but also very expensive. I mean, you got to build a device just like a HyperDeck, a compressor, an equalizer. They have channel strips now, like they use it all the time. In fact, one of the most famous channel strips in the audio industry is Aphex, and a lot of people used it, and it was an effects rack, and you had a couple effects in there, and now Rodecaster Pro has that license. So those Aphex effects, Big Bottom and the Oriole Exciter, are all built into now the Rodecaster Pro version 1 and the Rodecaster Pro version 2, which I use right here. And if you don't know what the Rodecaster Pro is, it is an audio interface designed for live streaming and podcasting. Version 1 was mainly probably podcasting, had one USB out to be able to go back and forth between your computer, Mac, or PC. So you could use it as an audio interface. You could record multi-channels. It has pads. You could program audio on pads. So a commercial, you can program music on pads. You can program all kinds of things. And in the Rodecaster Pro 2, they have 2 audio USB outs. So now you can have a PC and a laptop hooked up to it, and both of them now can use your Rodecaster Pro version 2 as an audio interface. So again, it has effects built into it. Rodecaster Pro 2 now has reverb and delay built into it. It also has vocal effects, which are really cool. I've played with before in the live streams. But again, you want to have headphones on because I can't hear what you guys hear unless I pick up and listen right here. So anyway, so that's one cool thing about VST plugins is that they're less expensive because they're all made in the digital domain, and then you can then bring those effects in. Now, if you know anything about the software we're using tonight, which is the software by Blackmagic Design to control everything, you can see right here under the audio, they have plugins built in too. So here's camera 1, camera 2, camera 3. So if I was using my camera audio right here, if I turned it on, which is right down here, then I would also be able to add some effects. So EQ up here, and you got actually a nice EQ, 6-band EQ. Shut that off. Down here, you have all of these effects built in. So I have expander, I have a gate, I have a compressor and a limiter. So again, those are cool effects. But when you get into things like a Behringer 32, a lot of those have even more effects, and they even give you a lot of free VST effects. Like when I had regular audio interfaces in my studio, I had hundreds of effects as well as lots that I purchased, and pretty crazy how much money you could actually invest in those VSTs. Okay, so great question, DJ Ware, and that's enough on that. Can you mix the wavelength audio transition with the use of the RSAP? So, okay, most people know that a ATEM Mini Pro, Pro ISO, SD models, right? Extreme ISO, SD model, even now the rack mounted versions, if they have in the new HD8 ISO we talked about last week. So if you don't know anything about the announcement of their new desktop panel with recording built into it, as well as an ISO model, as well as streaming bridges, all kinds of cool things built into that new device. We talked about it last week in the live stream in depth, a couple hours. So go check that out. And but again, if it has a USB-C out, and that new H8 does have 2 USB outs, then technically, right, they'll record to an SD drive. So in an extreme ISO, you have 2 USB out. So you can use both of those as a webcam. I don't think you can use them simultaneously. I've never tested it, but you can definitely record out of one USB out to, I use these discs, and they make different speeds of these. You want to get something that's probably 1,000 megabytes a second just to be safe. But I record on these. I'm recording right now. You can see, even though I have this turned a little bit, so my camera can shoot the table when I jump over there later. But again, so the ATEM can go, Freddie, into a computer. So if you're going to stream out of OBS, or you're going to stream out of other software, or stream directly to YouTube or directly to Facebook from your studio, and you can do that. Just remember, you're using your Mac or your PC, your laptop. You're using it to do all the encoding, which means it's got to convert the video signal that you're sending it to through that USB cable. It's got to encode it to H.264, whatever you're streaming at, up to 60 frames per second, 1080p. And then you could do 720p as well from an ATEM, and then it has to encode it, and then it has to stream it. So that means it's going to do all of that work. And when I do that, like I'm doing that right now from my ATEM, I don't have to worry about that. So again, it's streaming right now, doing all the work. It goes right into my internet in my house, and then out into YouTube land. So I can record right now, and I can also use it as a USB cam. So why is that important? Because when you go into Zoom and you use your ATEM as a video device, as a webcam, you can also go under the audio settings and use your ATEM as an audio device. What does that mean? Well, if you're on Zoom, you could then add effects and adjust a mix, headphone mix, and a live mix through Wavelink. And Wavelink lets you do 2 separate mixes, which is really cool. You can now do that in the Rodecaster Pro 2. The new firmware update will let you do specific mixes and send those out over the USB signals. And in reality, the Rodecaster Pro has a main out and a chat out, which has mix minus built into it, but now you can turn it on and off for either one. And then you actually have a third communication. It's not as intensive. It can't do multi-tracks, but then you could also then have another audio device for like bringing in a caller or something like that. So the reason that's important is an A10 Mini, A10 Mini Pro, A10 Mini Pro ISO, all the way up. If it has a USB-C out and it's designed to be a webcam, it also sends audio. And so you can choose that in software that sees that, and you can bring that audio in. So you can stream from your software, but Freddie, you can't use Wavelink to control the ATEM streaming through it, right? Because that's going directly into the ATEM. You have to feed the audio to it through a lav mic like I have on right here. The DJI mic, a mic like this, SM7B, or like the pod mic that's over on the table, you have to feed it audio. So you either have to go everything into the ATEM and stream out of it, or you have to come as a webcam into your software. And remember, when the ATEM Mini first came out, it didn't encode, it didn't stream, it didn't record. It just had 4 inputs, had program out, and then you could then send it as a USB-C interface into a laptop or a Macintosh or a PC and use it as a webcam, which meant that you could use quality cameras as your webcam. And now we have quite cool quality USB cameras, and we have some pretty incredible USB mics available out there, like the Wave 3 is a really cool mic, and there's other microphones by Rode that are USB microphones, and then there's XLR microphones like this as well that have to be plugged into some kind of interface. And the new H8 has XLR inputs, so you could plug this Shure microphone straight into it. Now, we don't know yet if it has enough gain, but it sounds like there's enough gain in the new MIDI converters. And if you don't know what those are, we talked about them last week. They came out with a new MADI converter that converts 4 microphones. You can also plug in 1/4-inch jacks, line level in, and then it has quality preamps, actually multiple preamps on each one of those 4 inputs. And it's supposed to have really low noise and really high gain, which is really, really good because this microphone needs a lot of gain. And the old Rodecaster Pro version 1 really did not have enough gain for this microphone. So some dynamic microphones need a lot of gain. And if you don't know what gain is, as soon as this dynamic microphone gets plugged in, it has to have gain to bring up what it's listening to, because it's not a powered mic, even though some power goes into it. But it's not like a condenser microphone that you send phantom power to. So, okay, enough of that. I don't want to blow our whole time tonight. That was a great question, Freddie. Again, if you didn't see that, he was asking if Wavelink that's DJ Ware's question. Freddie was asking if you could do things with the software Wavelink with the A10 Mini Pro. So if that was the right answer to your question, Freddie, let me know. Let's do this now. Let's go into, let's see, how do I want to do this? Let me bring my software back over. And let's bring this up. Let's see. Okay, let's do me in a laptop here. Okay, so let's dive right into this. There is now a podcast feature available inside YouTube. That's right. Here's the page. So I have it open. This is a real live page. If I wanted to start uploading a video, I could add a square icon. I could make it public, private, or unlisted. I can add a description. I can add a title. And then once I've done that, I can create. So basically, when you go into, when I post a video or I start a live stream, I'm going to hit this little create button. And now you can see there is a new podcast option right here. So normally you're going to create a post, which is just like a Facebook post or a Twitter post or a LinkedIn post, just a still image and typing. You could do dynamic links in that. If you're going to go live, you have the go live button. Then when you hit the go live button, you have other choices. Do you want to go live from a mobile device? Do you want to go live from software, which would be like a Mac or a PC? Then you have upload a video. Again, that's the algorithm. YouTube, if you want to build a channel, you need to upload a lot of videos. Jay talked about it 3 or 4 times last night on his live stream, so go check that out. In reality, if we're only live streaming, it's not going to help us build a big audience on YouTube because the algorithm is pushed towards consumable videos. The shorter, the better. In fact, shorts blow up really fast and then they die really quick. And then long form videos are less people listen to all of it, but it does put your listening count up. Hours matter. If you want to get monetized, you have to have plenty of hours each year on your channel. But shorter videos like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, which I rarely do anymore, those will really get a lot of consumption and they get shared a lot and people don't get bored as fast. So podcasts now have been added to the world here. So let's go over here and let's look at what this is all about. Let me make this a little bigger here so you guys can see it better. I'm stealing this right from their page. So you have the Help Center, create a podcast, learn how to create a podcast using YouTube Studio and your podcast and your podcast to YouTube Music. So these are actually going to be automatically added to YouTube Music is my understanding. So it says on YouTube, a podcast show is a playlist. So if you don't know what a playlist is, let's see, don't want to do that. If I go into my playlists right here, here is my Elgato Stream Deck series right here, my HyperDeck Shuttle HD series right here, Pop Out Chat series, how to pop out chat using Aaron Parecki's pop-out chat plugin. He has updated it, so this is a little out to date now, but it still works for getting set up. And then I have my shorts and then my post show, and I could go through all my playlists. So it is a playlist is what it's saying. Find this page again. So it makes a playlist. The podcast episodes are videos in that playlist. So these are video podcasts. So it's basically going to be a different form of medium, like shorts have kind of its own life and what they are. And the more organic, the more not produced they are, the more interesting they are and capture people's attention. And they're more about, you know, they're kind of like my best one was me showing the size of a DJI Mini 3 Pro in my hand and the controller in my hand. So people wanted to see the size. So that video did really good. It was a short. These are really long. These are live. Live is its own algorithm on YouTube. And now we have shorts. Now we have short videos that you can upload, live videos that you can do from your mobile device or your desktop device or even an iPad. And then you can go live on YouTube from an ATEM, right? So there's lots of things. YOLO Box. You can go from a Mevo camera. A lot of cameras now out there actually have streaming ability built into them. But you can also now create a playlist that's video, that's a podcast, and it gives you all of the things that you need to know about it. Now, we're going to have a conversation about it tonight. I would love to get your feedback, but let me give you enough information so that we can have an intelligent conversation about it. So playlist, your podcast should only contain full-length episodes. So you can't do like episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 of one topic. They need to be full-length episodes or they all need to be uploaded together, it says. So full-length episodes organized in the order that they should be consumed. So that's a little interesting because with playlists, right, you can bring things to the top. So most people want to probably consume your most recent episode. So when I'm doing like Shannon's podcast, I created a playlist for her called More About Birth on her podcast, on her YouTube channel, but they didn't have podcasts at that time. I could now create all of those master files. I can create a new playlist for her and make it like a whole year series of podcasts. So the most recent to the first that year. And again, that would be a playlist. It goes on to say, in order that they should be consumed, if your podcast has multiple seasons, include them in the same podcast. And I'm not sure what that means. It doesn't make sense to me. So podcast creators are eligible for the following perks. Anybody like perks? No money. You get official search cards. I have no clue what those are. I'm going to be researching this next week. Options to be featured on YouTube podcasts. That's cool. So obviously, as podcasts get out there, YouTube is selling advertisement. Podcasts are people, they can put headphones in. They don't have to watch it. And then it's going to go over to YouTube Music. So that means that the music channel on YouTube is just, that's playing audio, right? Not videos, it's just audio. So badges on your podcast and videos. So that's pretty cool. And then there's a note here. It says some playlists aren't eligible for podcast features, even if you designate them as a podcast. Ineligible content includes, but isn't limited to, content that isn't owned by the creator. So you have to own it. You have to create it. And they have added this whole new level of music licensing now, I think, because of this new podcast. So when you go to upload a video now on YouTube, there's a whole new section that you can put the music that you're using. Like, I purchased license for my music. So the music that you hear on my live stream, that's licensed music. Hopefully that quit playing. So I have to then license that music, and so I can play it because it's for this YouTube channel, for my live streams. But you now can post your license in the comments. That's going to keep you from having someone else that mistakenly thinks that they own that music, which has happened to some of the people I listen to. It happened to Aaron Parecki. It happened to a couple other people, where someone took a track that they licensed, right, and then they put it on an album. Then they had their album copyrighted, and then the copyright, someone went after them and tried to say that they were using the music that was theirs, and it wasn't theirs. But they still had to go through all the hoops to try to fight that, talk with YouTube. And again, no one wants to do that. So now YouTube has created this ability for you to put your licensing information in right in the beginning. And who knows if we're going to start seeing more and more videos get flagged for copyright infringements. Who knows? With all this shared music, there's free music on Facebook, free music for shorts on YouTube and other videos, but all of that music has certain license stipulations. So if you do a series on YouTube and you do a podcast on YouTube and you're licensing music through YouTube, you may not be able to sell that on your webpage. You may not be able to put it on DVDs or put it on thumb drives for people, or even sell it outside of YouTube's platform where they make money. So there's a lot of stuff here that we need to figure out and digest. And I'll read this next section and then we will take questions. So learn how to create a podcast on YouTube. Check out the best practices for podcast creators. And here they are, kind of giving you this visual illustration of creating a podcast. Upload the video like normal, select the video. You can create a new podcast. So pretty simple steps. Fill out the title, description. If it's a still image, create. And then you're going to create playlists inside there, upload the video, and then that's what you're going to do. So playlists will be handled a little bit differently. Like I said, they're supposed to be in order. They're supposed to be complete episodes. And so we'll have to learn how to do this in the future. So again, if you are new to YouTube, learn how to upload videos as episodes of your podcast. So bang. There's more sections of that as you go down. There's more topics, and we could spend 4 hours discussing this. I have no plan on doing that. But as you can see, check. Podcasts are going to be part of our future. So in reality, this mic's on, and it is a pod mic, and I'm on this camera right now. I also have my other camera I can't change to. So I made this little podcast set because in reality, I have, even before I went live on this channel for all of the technology, I actually started producing a podcast for my wife. I've talked about it before here on the channel. It doesn't get a lot of interest, so I don't spend a lot of time talking about podcasts. But this microphone in the Rodecaster Pro version 1 that I purchased, 4 of these microphones, 4 of these stands. These are my new headphones, but I even have 4 other sets of headphones. These are my really nice new M50Xs. They're amazing. They actually have an unpluggable cord, and you can actually plug them in, I believe, USB-C as well. I can't remember. I'll have to look, but have those here mainly as a prop. But I wanted to just talk real quickly about, there's lots of people that don't have time to watch YouTube videos, and so they want to consume something like a podcast. So maybe they just like being on YouTube. Maybe that's the area that they enjoy. They consume YouTube all the time and they can't always watch. So imagine if this takes off, then the technology that I practiced before I ever started doing this, this channel and the desk and the ATEMs, we were doing a 1-camera podcast, a wide shot with my wife and her associate, and I was in the background on another microphone with headphones producing the show. But the cool thing about it was that's kind of how we started, and I convinced them that video was a good solution as well, because some people want to see your face, they want to better understand your personality. Other people just want to listen to your podcast. They just want the content that's available if they listen to you. So back over here. And that may have been a little echoey. I don't know if I had the mics right, but let me know in the chat if I did, if that worked out. So let's go in the chat here and just catch up. That's it? A studio in a studio, that's the only. So do you guys have any questions, or would you like to know any more before we talk about HyperDecks, about the new podcast feature? Are you going to dive in on YouTube yourself and study it? I'm sure videos are starting to be produced. I may produce a studio when I get back into town. I am flying to Seattle in the morning. I'll be back Wednesday night, so it's a quick trip. But when I get back, I may do it, because I am pretty passionate about podcasts. In fact, we've had my wife's podcast on hold. It's called More About Birth, and she's a midwife, and so it's all about that. Women love it that are having babies, and so that's been on pause for a while, and we're getting ready on the 11th to shoot a couple episodes, maybe 3. And her assistant lives out of town now, so they're in separate locations. So we're going to try to produce 2 or 3 at a time when we can, and then we'll post those over 4, 5, 6 week period of time. So again, having the ability to now create a playlist and have an audio podcast that people can either consume through YouTube Music or consume through YouTube playlist on your channel, that's quite fascinating. So. Okay, thank you for letting me know. It sounded good, Jonah. Thank you. So again, podcast set. I've been telling you guys that I wanted to change up this room, and I'm trying to decide how I'm going to design this new Studio B, because in reality, I still believe that there's a place for my business to work with people and producing their podcasts. So I've been trying to figure out how I can have virtual sets or multiple sets, or be able to create quick sets inside my new Studio B. So basically, I'd have to take 2 side walls and designate a whole section of that room to be podcast, complete with lighting. And if you do it right, then you can have tables set up in the middle of the room, and change what's in the background. So I haven't quite figured that out. I don't want a lot of storage for props. So I'm really racking my brain. Part of the flight time tomorrow, which is like an hour to Seattle, I'm going to actually take my notebook and write down some ideas about how I might be able to design that, because I may do a new series and they'll have nothing to do with tech, a podcast, and I may not. I have a couple friends that have talked to me about doing a podcast. So my wife has her podcast, and it'd be nice to have it out there, not in here. And if I have to shut down Studio A, which is this studio right here, and move everything to Studio B eventually, then I just want to have it to be even more multiple functions than this room. And then obviously, if I'm not using this as a room for a family member, taking care of them, it'll become a guest room / man cave theater room. So probably have a sofa here that makes into a bed or something like that, so that we can chill out here, watch the big screen TV, and then all of this equipment that you guys can see on Skycam will go to Studio B. And when I have both of them, or building the other one, we'll be going back and forth, and I may even be able to have a Studio A and B, because we never know what's going to happen as far as health goes with Shannon's mom, but we are committed to keep an eye on her. So, okay. I'm not getting any more chat. I don't know if it just stopped. But maybe Freddie, if you're still on here, drop something in there and say chat is good, so I know chat is good. And it's the same. Well, I see Freddie's comment here, but I think I already put that up. A little podcast worked very well. So, okay, then let's move on. Let's jump into HyperDecks. What type of HyperDeck do you need? Let's do this here, slideshow. So this HyperDeck right here is my first HyperDeck. This is the HyperDeck Studio Mini, and it actually has some features that if you are going to do, and I always try to figure out what's the easiest way to teach this, and I'm teaching this all the time. Graphics that are like stingers, right? Sometimes they have transparencies. What stingers do is they cross over the screen, so you can hide a transition in the back, so you switch cameras, and then they come back open again. Well, sometimes they have transparency. So for that transparency to work really well, you have to have what they call a key channel. And so if you were to look at the back of that Mini, you'll see up there on the top, you have A and B channel. Well, A would be fill, which would be like a video. If you put a video on the screen, it fills the whole screen. Or if you had a still image, and then you just put something moving on top of it and made a video out of a still image, it's still just a video because it fills the whole frame. But it doesn't have to fill the whole frame, because if you want to do a flying graphic across the screen and you want to make it like a video graphic, like you see in all of the high-tech TV stuff, and you see in commercials with graphics flying across the screen, where you can do graphics flying across your screen, special effects. Like if you go to my HyperDeck series, or you show up to my channel for the very first time, I have a video on there where I did a time-lapse effect right in a live stream. And the idea was to pretend like I was time-lapsing from one camera to another camera. That was all done with what we call key and fill. And so this old HyperDeck Mini has key and fill. But then Blackmagic Design decided to come out with a new version. And this is what the new version looks like. And the only way you can really tell the difference is they have this black screen, because it has the new version has the ability to go to a light background or a dark background. So when they do pictures online on the channel Blackmagic Design, then they always do the black version. That's the only reason you can tell the difference on the front. But if you go to the back, there is great differences. There is no key or fill. And if I had $5 for everybody who messaged me on my channel and they said, I bought the new HyperDeck HD, And how do I get a key and fill channel out of it? So what is a key and fill channel? Well, we might as well let the cat out of the bag. So let's do this. Let me go into, where is my 3 box? And we'll turn this off the air. So I will then change box. Oh, this isn't very good. Let's just go to this default. So we're going to go to box 2, and we're going to make box 2 is going to be HyperDeck fill. So that's the fill channel. So my video is playing. Let's get my subscribe logo playing. Not playing. So something's wrong with that. Let's go in here, find something that's got key and fill. There we go. Nope, that doesn't have key and fill, does it? Yeah, it does. Okay, so that is Phil. So not its name isn't Phil, it's subscribe. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'll go into box 3, which is that bottom box down there, and I'll put the key in it. So a key channel looks like this. So the question tonight on the table is, what HyperDeck is right for you? It depends on what kind of graphics you want to do. If you want to do graphics like this, and I can play it and then just have it continue to go through, I created that graphic in After Effects. I exported it with an alpha channel, and so that's called an alpha channel. I call it a key channel because that's in reality. So key, alpha, there's kind of interchangeable words. So on the top, that is coming out of that B output, or out the A output in the back of my HyperDeck Studio HD Plus, and the bottom key is coming out of the B output in that device. So let's just save this, and we'll go back over here to slideshow. So when you look at the back of these, this HyperDeck Mini that I've had in my studio for a long time does have the 2 channels there, the A and B. And so the A would be the fill. That was the top box up there. And the B would be the key. And again, you have to create those graphics in After Effects. So if I was to drop in the new version, it looks like this. So it's almost identical, really impossible to tell apart on the front, but that one has a white screen, the other one has a dark screen. But when you look at the back of the new HD version, they added an HDMI out. They added the ability to have, what's it called? Here, I need to see it here on this screen. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Go back to multi-view. What happened just there? What is it called? The time code in and out. So that syncs up a number of HyperDecks. So if you're gonna ISO record from HyperDecks, you can actually use those time code in and outs to sync them all together. So they'll all be on the exact same clock setting. So all the cameras would sync up later, even though they recorded in separate HyperDecks. And in reality, lots of people just recorded HyperDecks. That's why they made this. If you don't need key and fill, if you're not doing animated graphics and you're only using a HyperDeck to do ISO recordings, right? Or you're only using a HyperDeck to record your camera input, or maybe you want to just use it to play back videos, right? You're just playing back video clips. Like when you travel, you want an ATEM and you want a HyperDeck so you can play back video clips. Well, this new HyperDeck works fine. Well, that's very similar to this, will look familiar as well. That is a shuttle. The shuttle does not have the ability to do key and fill either, though the shuttle does have the ability to do the teleprompter, which is cool. So you get, basically, you get a desktop version of this HyperDeck. Now you have it on your desk, so you can control it with a really cool knob and the ability to actually hit 2 buttons on it. You can hit jog and scroll and really go slow forward and slow back. And And if you look on the back of it, it only has 2 HDMIs, and that's an HDMI in and an HDMI out. And so that's so you can bring a camera into it. You could record that camera, then you could come back out into your ATEM, or you could come out into a recorder, or you could come out onto a big screen. So you could literally use this device to record a podcast, right? One camera podcast. You'd have to have your audio in the camera, so you'd have to have a microphone on the camera, and then you could send it out to a ATEM, or you could send it out on a SD card and give it to a client, or you could then send it out to an ATEM and stream it, which is really cool. So you could record the camera, and then you could record it on a disc or send it out, and you can record H.264. You can record in ProRes. It has lots of different codecs, and you could also use this as a teleprompter because, again, it has a teleprompter features built in. So when Blackmagic updated the Mini, they didn't update it for it to do fill and key graphics. So you actually have to go up to the next version up, which is this one right here, which I have in my studio. This is the HyperDeck Studio HD Plus, and it actually has the ability to do key and fill. Here's the back of that. And it has some other cool features. It has a little speaker into it, so you can hear the audio, which is great. It has a headphone output. I should show you guys that again. And then also has a remote button. So like when I switch to my HyperDeck in channel 7, I have it set to remote start. So whatever I have queued up when I switch to that camera angle, which is the HyperDeck, that video plays automatically. Well, if you're in a live event, you don't want the videos to play automatically, then you have to go into the software inside the little screen on the HyperDeck, and it takes forever if you don't know what you're doing. You may not even find it, and then turn the remote little click box on and off. Well, the nice thing about this thing is the remote button's right there above the headphone output, which is amazing. And then above that is the speaker. So if I had my headphones in, I push the speaker, I'm going to hear headphones. And if I don't have my headphones plugged in, I push that button, I'm going to hear the little tiny speaker. That little hole slot next to those two buttons is the little speaker hole. So it ain't great audio, but it's audio. So again, the back of that does have a number of cool features. You got time code, you have HDMI in and HDMI out, just like the new shuttle, but you also have all of those SDI outs. And yes, they are SDI outs. So that means that you have to convert them. So you're going to need to use a converter to convert SDI to HDMI, and Blackmagic sells those for between $39 if you power inverse USB, up to $50 if you want a power cord with a USB-C wall mount plug-in. Then they're more money. So you would need one of those for the key channel, one of those for the fill, because if you look all the way over there, the A and B SDI outs are SDI, and you want to plug them into the back of an ATEM, you would need to actually convert them to HDMI. And again, you can just plug them in, have the SDI into it all the time, the HDMI into your ATEM all the time, like I do in my studio, and you should be fine. So again, you get the nice features on the front, you get the nice features on the back, and that is what you need if you want to do a high definition, right, 1080p stream, 60 frames per second, and you want to play back video. And I can tell you, HyperDecks only like ProRes files for whatever reason. You can record in them, so you can hook your camera in the HDMI input. You can record at H.264 .mp4 and then play it back. It would play fine. But if you try to render it in a computer, DaVinci Resolve, or even in After Effects, Final Cut Pro will actually do ProRes. You need to render your videos ProRes, and the discs that are on the front here, these little SD cards, which are right next to the buttons, a little sound hole. Those two SD cards, they need to have videos on them all the same size. So all 1080p, right? Or all 720p, same frame rate. So if you're going to do your stream at 29.97, then all the videos on here should be the same frame rate. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have a 30 frames per second list on here, they'll still play. and then your ATEM will have to convert them before they go out into the live stream world, or it'll convert them before they go on your SD card, your SD drive. But these files all have to be identical. And the nice thing is there's 2 cards, so you can hot swap them. So when one card gets filled, it starts flashing at you, and then it'll flip over automatically to the other SD card if it's empty. And once it flips over and you're recording a live event, you can pull the other card out, dump all the files off, and pop it back in. And 2 cards, you could go all day long by hot swapping, which is one of the things I really, really like about the HyperDeck. So if you just want to play videos back and you want a teleprompter, there you go. If you just want to have a rack mount, 1/3 rack mount device that can record and play back and hot swap cards, and you don't need animated graphics with a key channel, then you can buy this cheaper version of the ATEM or the HyperDeck Mini Studio. This is called the HyperDeck Studio HD, and it's a great unit for just playing video, and you can play some graphics, but they're not going to look super nice because they don't have the key channel to make all the edges crisp and make the transparencies work really well. The best way to define what a key channel does, if you put a transparent graphic over my shirt and waved it back and forth, the red color and the lines would start breaking it up as it's moving. But what a key channel does is like 2 hands going across the screen. One goes across and cuts out the shirt as it goes across the screen, and the other one goes across, so you get a nice, crisper image, and that's what a key channel does. So you also have a couple other devices. This is the nicer Studio HD version. It's got a nicer dial on it. You have 2 SD cards in it, as well as these swappable drives. So if that's what you want, that's a full rack unit. If you want to go 4K, then you have this puppy. If you want to see a comparison of all of those, there they are right there. And let's go in here and find out what is playing in the background. So 3 is still on back there. Okay, so that's a look at the HyperDeck. So the top one up there does not have a key channel, but this does, this one does, and that one does. And then you can really go crazy on Blackmagic's site. And let me talk about this quick before we take questions. But they also have what they call the Ultra Studio 4K. This device right here is like a HyperDeck on steroids, but it communicates through a Thunderbolt port. That's right. You can use a Mac Mini, Mac Mini 2, all of those devices, a laptop with the Thunderbolt port. My laptop actually has a Thunderbolt port, so I could take this laptop and I could take that device. What's exciting about that device is now any graphics that you want to key inside software on your computer could now be brought through that device through Thunderbolt. In the back of that device, you're going to find out that it has key and fill. So if we go down here and we look at the backs, let's zoom in here. You have the Ultra Studio Mini. It has a SDI in and out, and then a multiple colors, so it's not going to give you the key channel. This is the Ultra Studio 4K Mini, and you can see it does have a and B out right next to the multi-jack in. It also has 2 USB-C ports out. So HDMI in, HDMI out, and you can also see you have 1/4-inch audio jack. So that device, and then below that's the Ultra Studio 4K Extreme, and it even has redundant power and 2 USB-Cs. So those are devices that you can use through Thunderbolt. I don't really ever talk about them because I don't own them, but I do know people now that I follow online that use them all the time. And so great devices. They have other features built in, so check out those features. So if you're going to use like Pro Presenter to do graphics, you could use that device. and then you would come HDMI out into play video back, or SDI out, convert it into the back of your 2 channels, which I haven't talked about. When you have a HyperDeck with key and fill, it takes up 2 channels in your ATEM. So let me take a breath, take some questions, and see if you guys have any input. And we should actually do one more thing here. Let's go back to products. So here is all the HyperDecks that I showed you tonight, but then you have these big boys as well. So the far right is just a control surface, but then you have the 4K and the 8K with these giant screens on them. So there you have some HyperDecks for high-end production. So you can even buy a HyperDeck to run 4K, 8K live streams if you were doing that, or broadcast. We just don't talk a lot about broadcast here, but those are the devices. And then you have the HyperDeck shuttle here as well. And you got a Blackmagic duplicator 4K, and that's can duplicate all of those SD cards. So you can put one card in and then hand off all of that information. So there's lots of information about HyperDecks on my channel. If you want to learn more about how to use the HyperDeck Studio Mini, the shuttle, or if you want to learn how to use the HD Plus Pro that has the key and fill, that's all on my channel. So go consume those videos when you have time, and hopefully that will help you out. So I got 3 minutes and 12 seconds left to record tonight's stream. So let's take some questions, and let's put chat back on the air. And thank you, Freddie, for letting me know chat is good. Hank as well. Sorry, had a brain fart earlier with names. You missed quite a bit, David, so you'll have to play the video back. We've covered the new podcast version of YouTube and talked about that a little bit. No one seems to have any questions about that. And Jay's asking if I use any of the editing decks. No, right now I'm going to use my Stream Deck Plus as my editing deck. I don't use DaVinci Resolve because I need all the other software that's a part of the cloud version of Premiere or Adobe. So if I was just editing video, there's a lot of things that I love about DaVinci Resolve. I would have the paid version for sure. I love the cloud features to it. How you can share products. If I joined a team, I probably would end up going with some form of cloud storage and communication. And DaVinci Resolve does it great with that. I don't have any Blackmagic cameras either, Jay. So that's very tempting. If you do have Blackmagic cameras, then you could take the 4K or 6K footage and sync it up later in your timeline. And when you record on the ATEM Extreme ISO or an ATEM Mini Pro ISO, it makes the ISO versions makes a little folder with all the video footage in it, all the audio's in it, all the still images are in it. So you can take that. It also makes a timeline you could open up in DaVinci Resolve. And so I'm sure that's why Jay's asking me. And then DaVinci Resolve has the ability to have some control surfaces. And one of the control surfaces I think you can get free when you buy the paid version of DaVinci Resolve. At least they've offered it a bunch of times. And I was very tempted. I have DaVinci Resolve on my PC and my laptop, I believe. I just don't use it. Occasionally I will train someone how to use it because it's free. And so if someone has a really, really tight budget, it's the great way to go to be able to start a YouTube channel and edit videos, or do a podcast, or edit videos to upload on your channel, because DaVinci Resolve pretty much has everything you could hope for when it comes to video and audio editing. And then there's even more things you can do in Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop. I use Adobe Premiere. I use Adobe Audition. All of my wife's podcasts, the audio part of the podcast goes through Adobe Audition. And before it gets released, and it's a really easy tool to create podcast audio. And then I go through Libsyn, which is an online account. I upload my wife's audio podcast to that, and then Libsyn, after you set it up, sends my wife's audio podcast to all the locations: Apple Podcast, Google Play, Spotify, and then once it's out there, people grab it and make it a part of their podcast sites. Because again, you can't really control your podcast when it gets out there, other than suing those people, because once it's out there, they get access to it, they download it from your site, and then they create a playlist and they sell advertisement online too. So that's my answer to that. I have no decks. Okay, so I don't see HDMI inputs and outputs. Do you need converters? Yeah, you definitely need converters. Again, if you're going to do that on the back of these devices. So let me find my mouse here. So if you can buy an old, where's it at? If you can buy an old HyperDeck Studio Mini, right? If you can find one on eBay, it does have the alpha and the key channel, but you do have to have an SDI converter for that new version. And so again, here's the back of the new version. So you could come HDMI out and go directly with the new HD model, but you do not have a key channel. You do have to have the new HyperDeck Studio HD Plus, and then you do have to convert input A and input B to HDMI, and then go into the back of your ATEM. You buy the SDI version of the ATEMs, you don't have to convert. So, but then you'll have to convert HDMI from your camera to SDI to go into your ATEM. So that's why I don't own an SDI version of any of the ATEMs, because it doesn't make sense to me, because 75% to 80% of all of my inputs in my studio are HDMI, and only HyperDecks that I need to hook up for key and fill need SDI. So right now I only use 4 converters, because I still have the old Studio Mini, which has a key channel and fill channel, and then I have the new Shuttle HD Plus, again, which looks like this right here when you're shopping online. And if you want to go up a notch, go to this model. And if you want 4K with extra redundancy as far as power, as well as nicer control knobs, then go to the 4K version. And then obviously there's 8Ks and the bigger consoles with bigger screens. So hope that answers your question. Hey, Keto, thanks for joining us tonight from Denver, Colorado. I used to live there. Love that area. Thank you for joining us. And Everyday Jay says, I'm debating getting a speed editor or a simulator. How would the Stream Deck compare? I use FCPX and Resolve. Well, so how does the Stream Deck? Well, I am doing a video release. I may have to do some re-recording, Jay. What I did is I went to Sideshow Effects, and I talked about this a few weeks back. If you go on my Stream Deck series on my channel, oh, I don't have the still image for that. But if you go to my Stream Deck Plus series, one of the live streams that I did, I think you were there, I talked about the Sideshow Effects plugin. It's not really a plugin. It's just they designed all the buttons. You drop a file into your DaVinci Resolve, because they have a DaVinci Resolve version now. And what that does is that sets up the keyboard shortcuts, and then they built a Stream Deck version of that on the platform. So XL, Stream Deck XL, I think they have a pack for that. The Stream Deck Plus, they have a pack for that. I bought the XL pack for Adobe Premiere. That's what my video is about. And I bought the Stream Deck Plus and XL pack for both of those. So right now I can open up my Stream Deck and use the knobs to scroll back and forth. So it may not be as DaVinci Resolve related as their control surface, because again, it only has 4 buttons. You can do stacks. So you can basically, the way it works on a XL is they'll create page forward and page back buttons, and you got to go through different pages. But on the Stream Deck Plus, you can just swipe and change pages. And then they also create a main page. So when you actually download the software, you have to connect all these. So I had to connect the first page in my Stream Deck Plus each one of those buttons, all 8 buttons, went to another page. So, and then I had to go to those pages and then link the back button. So it wasn't hard. Took about a half hour to do the install, and now they have an update that I need to change to. I guess there's a bug somewhere in one of the audio pages. So comparison, I can't really do that because I have not used those decks. But watching all the videos that I did when I almost bought it, it looks like it really will speed things up. I think it only really kind of works in one part of DaVinci Resolve, if I remember right, because you have the whole color section, and you also have other sections. What is cool about the new Television Studio HD8 and HD8 ISO is that you have a lot of controls on the LCD screen for coloring, for editing. So it's actually kind of a Stream Deck Plus on steroids built into the deck. And as Freddie said in a email string back and forth, he says, I still would love to have a Television Studio HD8. I would too. If someone gave me one, I would eat it up. It wouldn't fit in this studio very easy, but I would build it into a new deck in the new studio. But I'm holding out for a 16 channel. If hopefully they'll introduce that here in the next 4 months. And then I may sell my 2 Stream Decks, or keep one, sell a Stream Deck and my A10 Mini Pro, or create a mobile kit and start doing some paid for live streamings. And I've turned those down because I'm not set up to do mobile. So, okay. Kevin, thanks for joining. Sorry you're late. I have a Panasonic AG-CX10 camcorder 4K. I record on an SD MOV format, but I can't play it on the Blackmagic Design HyperDeck. How can I set up my camera? Okay. So you just need to change it. So if you have software on your computer, if you can just render it as a ProRes file, it'll play in your HyperDeck. Also, inside your HyperDeck, and you didn't say which one you have, HyperDeck HD, inside your HyperDeck, there's also settings. So if you're gonna put videos in there that are ProRes, set it for ProRes. I can just tell you this, that if you're recording inside your HyperDeck, they should play back. If you are recording in the camera, and it's not .mov files, they probably won't play back. And you're saying the SD is MOV format, but it's not playing. So my guess is it's inside the settings of your HyperDeck. So if you watch my video series on the HyperDeck HD Plus, I think I cover the settings in there. One of the things you have to do is go into the settings. I'll go in there right now. So it will be almost identical to my HyperDeck shuttle. So let me go into menu here. Let's see, where do I need to go here? I think it's under setup. I'm not sure. I'm about to find out. It's been a long time since I did this. Man, that's a long, long menu. That's not it. So let me get back out of that. It's got to be under the record menu. It has to be. Yeah, it is. So the very second thing under the record menu is the codec. Make sure that's set for ProRes, and then your camera may just not be recording a ProRes version that the HyperDeck reads. For some reason, it's very persnickety. That's why a lot of people run away from HyperDecks. But I have found as soon as you have software that can render graphics in ProRes, like Adobe Premiere can render in ProRes, then I just render in any type ProRes. ProRes Lite, ProRes 422, ProRes 444, and all those are different type ProRes codecs. So 444 just means it's got all the information there. That's what you would want to render an 8K file in if you wanted to get all of that information handed off and then someone was going to color it. ProRes Lite is probably the smallest format of ProRes, but once you have the codec set to ProRes in that record menu, so hit the menu button, go over to the record menu, hit set, 2 notches down, codec, hit set, and then you can scroll through the different codecs that are available on the HyperDeck. Also update your HyperDeck through the HyperDeck software. And if you need a free consult, just reach out to me on my website. It's in the comments tonight, and I would be happy to help you out in a free 1-hour consult. So I hope that's cool. That question right there, I probably didn't even have it on, but that's Keto FM. The HyperDeck Studio Plus does 4K 30 frames per second. So that is true. Not 60. You got to go to the 4K to do 60 frames per second. And then you get all those extra features. Great point, Kevin. That is true. Most people don't use it when they're streaming in ATEM because it only streams at 1080p 60 max. But I can take a 4K camera in my studio and I can bring it into my HD Plus and I can record at 4K 30 frames per second. So I used to have a converter that I used all the time. I actually have that in a folder that I can drop into our meeting tonight. I'm going to drop it right here on the screen. That didn't work. Let's try that again. I will drop it in right here. And then we will go back to slideshow and me, and I'll drop it in there. So this is the SDI to HDMI 6G. So this will convert from the HyperDeck out. This is just one of them. Actually, this isn't the one I was thinking it is. So they make another one that will convert your camera 4K to SDI out so you can come into the old HyperDeck shuttle. But you don't really need this anymore to record because now you have the HDMI input. So if that makes any sense, now I can come straight from my EOS R, which is this camera right here. So if I ever want to record 4K directly, like an Event 1 camera, I can grab my EOS R and I can grab my HyperDeck Studio Mini because it'll do the same thing, the older version, and I can record directly to it using my converter, or I could just grab my HD Plus and take it. It will record up to 30 frames per second, 4K, in all of those ProRes formats that are inside it. It'll even record at H.264 4K at 30 frames per second. So you are correct, but there is no prize other than good job. Well learned. Oh, awesome. That basically what I'm looking for is something to speed up basic editing with easy shortcuts. Yeah, so again, Jay, what I like about the Plus, why I'm doing the series on it, why I talk about Wavelink, because you're going to like Wavelink too. So that means if you have your USB microphone, which I think you're using a USB microphone if I remember right. No, I think I sent you an interface. So, but that interface comes in as a USB microphone. So you can go XLR through an interface to USB-C. The Wavelink software, which if you buy a Stream Deck Plus, you'll be able to use it with the Wavelink software. What's nice thing about that is you can do separate mixes. You can have one mix for your headphone, one mix for the main live stream out. So if you wanted music playing in your headphones, but you don't have a license to stream it, you could do that. So you'd be able to use it to edit in DaVinci Resolve. You'd be able to use it to control Wavelink. You could control Elgato key lights. I think the Stream Deck Plus is one of the coolest devices in my studio because of all that it can do. You can add Companion now. They just updated Companion. They don't have a looking Stream Deck Plus layout, but you can take the first 8 buttons with the new Companion update and make those buttons. Then the next row of buttons are actually the LCD screen. And then the next row of 4 buttons below that are the dials. It's weird, but if you go to John Barker's page, Here to Record, Jay, he just did a video on using Companion with the Stream Deck Plus. And yeah, I'm promoting someone else's channel and someone else's videos because he shows you how to use the Stream Deck Plus with Companion. So Companion can control multiple Blackmagic Design devices at the same time, as well as lights in your studio, intelligent lights, all kinds of stuff. And then it can also now use Companion. So you have Wavelink software that you can use with a page. You've got Companion that can be a page. You have all the other plugins that are available. Man, you can play games on a Stream Deck Plus. If you want to play Pac-Man, you can. It's a little mini computer, and it's a little mini monitor. So pretty cool. Okay, we've got an hour and a half tonight, and I'm tired, and I'm flying very early in the morning. So we have covered what HyperDeck's for you. So if you want animated graphics, like hopefully my subscribe logo is going to play. Yeah, there it goes. So if you want an animated graphic like that, there's no transparency, but that does have a key and fill channel. I showed it to you earlier. And please subscribe if you have not to the channel. So we've covered that. And then we also have taken a deep dive into the HyperDecks. And if we go to my laptop, we've also looked at Blackmagic Design's site, and they have all of these HyperDecks. So you have the HyperDecks they came out with last year, and I have the bottom one on the left. And tonight, Keto has the top one on the left. And then these nicer decks that will do 4K and have lots of extra features. And then you can get into the bigger, expensive decks, even giant controllers here on the right. And then the 8K version. So if you have a Constellation 8K, this is the HyperDeck you would get. You put the HyperDeck Extreme controller next to either one of those. And now you have a HyperDeck with a big screen on steroids. And I think that's cool. In fact, someday I will probably have one of these devices because I like HyperDecks and I like training on them. And then there's the shuttle all by itself. And you can see everything rack mounted up. So you can see how cool this is, right? Everything can be rack mounted inside a control room. And now you can put consoles on those same desks and do some pretty crazy things. So lots of information on here, and then duplication as well. And then you can also record on these monitors. So you could play back on these and record on these as well. They're not really Stream Decks or HyperDecks, but they are kind of video recorders and players. So whatever you think is cool. And then let's go over here just to give a shout out. Let's see. Where is it? Products, developers, support, company, home. We go home. Here's the new H8, the new cameras. There's one of our favorite Blackmagic Design grant characters. There's the new converter that has 4 inputs in. We talked about that. And so this is Maddie. So one SDI cable between the console on the right. And this device adds 4 microphones, which is really cool. Really good preamps, low noise, high gain. So great for those microphones. Someone asked me last week if they have phantom power. They do. It's only $395. I don't know if phantom power is built into the console. But it's definitely, if you get one of these for $395, you'll have. So that would be under the podcast desk, one SDI cable there. Then you can plug all the microphones into that or directly, a keyboard directly in. So if you're doing a live and you play piano, then you'll have a 1/4-inch input because they're Neutrik adapters. What is a Neutrik adapter? It means it has a 1/4-inch plug in the center of the XLR plug. And I showed that before, but I don't have an XLR jack in front of me. And the only reason I'm covering this is they also have now the new DaVinci Resolve iPad version. And so you can pick that up. And then the DaVinci Resolve 8.1, which is exactly what Jay was talking about. This is great editing software. They have a free version and just incredible color correction, camera control. That camera control is built into that new HD8 console. Just so many features here. Here's a timeline, what it looks like. And then I think if we keep scrolling down here, they'll show you the desktop editor right there that Jay was talking about. So you can get that editor from Blackmagic Design and be editing right there with all of that quick control. Then they also have consoles that will help you do audio. There's the Fairlight Audio console. So if you're in a high-end production studio, you would probably be using that. And then if we go down even further, you will have consoles for keyboards right there. So they have this keyboard available, which has been around for a long time. On the far right, you can see the new cloud device. And then here's two options. Jay's talking about the one on the left, the speed editor. You also have the DaVinci Resolve editor keyboard. It's only $595. That's what I would probably buy if I was going to go to a keyboard for editing. And then you have the coloring consoles. So Blackmagic Design is like video production on steroids. They are definitely leading the pack. Everybody else is chasing them, and more people are jumping over to their equipment. So, okay, guys, let's wrap it up. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you being here tonight. I am officially almost out of minutes of recording. So that's it. We've learned a little bit about podcasting on YouTube. I'm going to learn more this next week. We've learned about HyperDecks. And if you want key and fill, pick a HyperDeck that you absolutely know has key and fill. So you're not going to find it in the shuttle. You're not going to find it in the new HyperDeck HD Mini, but you will find it once you get past that and get to the HyperDeck Shuttle HD Plus and up. They will all have key and fill. And maybe some night we'll talk more about how to create a keyed graphic in After Effects. That would be fun. And maybe we'll even create a stinger live. We'll have to see. So let me know in the chat tonight before we leave if it's a thumbs up for stinger or if it's a thumbs up for creating a graphic with a key and fill channel, whatever you'd like. Let me know and we'll add that into one of the lives here in the very near future. Also would love to hear back from you either on my website or in email, or if you can text me, if you would be interested in me doing a basic extreme Blackmagic Design extreme series. So basically from hooking it up, setting it up, how to use the control software, how to use fill and key, how to hook up HyperDecks to it, the background software for updating the little converters, as well as updating HyperDecks, how to hook all those things up and get it all integrated. If you are interested in a extreme A10 Mini Extreme series on that, let me know. Be very similar to the new Television Studio HD8, but there are features in that device that will not be in that training series because I don't own one. So again, if you have an A10 Mini Extreme or Extreme ISO, let me know if that would be a playlist that you would like me to have on my channel, because if no one wants it, it's hours and hours and hours of production, and I will move on to something else here on the channel. So anyway, also, I'd love to get your feedback on if you think podcasting is a 1-star thing for YouTube, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star. Let me know tonight as we roll the outro video. So again, would you be interested in a thumbs up for a training video or a live stream on making a stinger or doing key fill graphics? Would you be interested in the extreme ISO series on how to hook it all up? And what do you think for podcasting on YouTube? 1, 2, 3, or 4 stars? And you can just give it 1, 2, or 3, 4 number in the chat, but just write down podcast and then a number. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. I am Keith. This is Life Journey Production Studios, and I will see you guys hopefully all in the next video. Goodbye now. Peace.